Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon, and this is the Magic is Real podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about near death experiences and other spiritually transformative experiences with a focus on spiritual insights and all things metaphysical and spiritual as it pertains to spiritual growth. And I'm so happy today to have with me Greg the Hydrogen Man. We're going to talk about why he's called Greg the Hydrogen Man and his spiritual journey. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the invite.
I'm happy to have you here. First, I'd like you to introduce yourself. Why do you use the name Greg the Hydrogen Man as you are now also attached to, for those that are watching on video? What do you call that? A hydrogen
Oh, yeah.
machine? Machine.
That's right. I should probably let people know about this. I'm not sick. Um, this is part of our programming, actually. When we see somebody with a cannula, we think somebody's sick. But I'm actually just inhaling pure hydrogen gas, not mixed with anything else, just pure gas. And I've learned not only that there is a very powerful health aspect to it, but that there's also a spiritual aspect to it. And what I've really learned on my journey is that health and spirituality really go hand in hand. They're actually, just to give an example, because I don't think people think about it that much. We take a huge example like Jesus, right? Because Jesus is kind of one of the biggest examples out there. And what are the two main things that he basically went out and did? He was always either preaching the truth or, these type of, information, or he was healing. It seemed like one or the other. He was either healing or teaching people. And so I noticed a strong correlation, and hydrogen is a very, very special gas that it took me time to realize that it had an extremely powerful spiritual component to it. And we don't know about it yet, but it's coming, by the way, Shannon. In fact, this has to do with the age of Aquarius that we're obviously entering and whatnot. And the age of Aquarius is going to be about the knowledge of water and the knowledge of hydrogen. And when I say the knowledge of hydrogen and water, meaning what it can do for us on a health level, on a spiritual level, on an agricultural level, on a scientific level, there's so many different things that it does on a level for energy. There's so many things that it can do for us. And so, it's funny because I didn't pick to be the hydrogen man, by the way. It's not something I picked. I didn't even know what hydrogen was. I didn't even care about hydrogen. But life is funny because our spirit is working in the background all the time on a very subconscious level, and it does so many things in life that we don't really know, you know. And so this is clearly my path and where spirit has guided me to. And I became the hydrogen man, and I don't regret any of it at this point. Learning what I've learned and how amazing it is, if done properly. I'm not a fan, just to caution people out there. There's a lot of things hydrogen out in the world these days. I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade, but it's become kind of a well-known thing. And I don't recommend, I actually personally think, remember this, I don't give any medical advice. I make no medical claims. And I make no claims for or against any products. But there are a lot of products out there in the world of hydrogen that sadden me deeply, because when you look at the health industry and the alternative health industry, what I've uncovered, because I worked in the medical field for over 20 years, and I know what goes on behind the curtain. I know how it works. Once I got sick and had to embark on my own journey, then I started seeing how the alternative health and naturopaths and all this stuff, how that works. And it's not all just, sunshine and rainbows. I mean, they have a lot of darkness in their side too. There's a lot of garbage supplements. There's a lot of garbage products, kind of like in other worlds of medicine. And so I caution people. And so when it comes to, hydrogen, but I'm not just a hydrogen expert, by the way, but I am a water expert too. So I know all about water, and water is extremely spiritual. I know all the filtration modalities for water, and I learned everything about water because I wanted the cleanest water. And I actually have if we really go into water, but I have a lab report, third-party lab test on water and how to clean it properly. And the craziest part is, who do you think the contaminants in water affect the most? I mean, they affect all of us, but who do you think it affects the most?
I don't know. Tell me. Babies.
Babies and
Yeah.
little kids, because their bodies aren't fully developed, their brains aren't developed, their livers, their kidneys, their bodies in general should not be having the contaminants that are in our water. Not to mention, did you know it appears we have radioactive contaminants in our water? I wouldn't have known had I not looked at lab tests. And not to mention the parasites, the bacteria, the viruses, not to mention all the contaminants. I could show you pages and pages of contaminants. There's so much stuff. And so cleaning your water became something that not I was doing it for my health originally, but I never thought it would transform me spiritually. And that's what really has shocked me. I realized that evil, there's a reason that they've polluted the water, they've polluted the air, they polluted the food, they probably polluted our clothes, they polluted our medicines. I mean, we literally have leaked CIA documents from literally 6 weeks ago proving that they've been putting stuff in our water, in our food, in our medicine, which I won't name, but these are in documents that were not supposed to be leaked. And so, why would somebody want to do this? And this is very spiritual, which is why I'm bringing it up, Shannon. They're doing it because to pollute the body, which I believe really is what we call the temple, of God, like God lives within us, right? And he lives within you and me and humans in general, which is great, right? We love each other. That's the way it should be. But if you pollute the body, if you pollute the blood, if you confuse the mind, if you do all these things, it makes it very easy to manipulate people. People will feel lost. Obviously, it's easy to brainwash people, which is the whole reason that they were putting this document that was leaked. It was all for brainwashing purposes, by the way. And that ends up confusing people as who they are. They forget who they are. You and I were talking a little bit off camera about people, finding inside who we really are versus the idea who we think we are. And it doesn't help when we have a system that's, again, trying to pollute us. And as I cleaned, so I did this for health reasons, but as I cleaned my blood, as I cleaned my body, as I started, this hydrogen is like the most magical gas you've ever heard of. You ever heard of a place called Lourdes, France, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
And the healing waters of Lourdes, right? The holy,
Hmm.
which is funny because the website for this company is called Holy Hydrogen. It's just kind of ironic. And their machine is called the Lourdes Hydrofix. I mean, it's literally named after this beautiful, amazing, magical, spiritual place in France.
I might have even been there. I studied abroad in France and went to many, many places. So, yeah,
Wow, because you probably didn't know this
not of it, no.
because nobody could figure out why that water was so magical. We're talking about following people, tracking them medically, seeing the medical results, and not understanding why. And it was the Japanese that appeared to have discovered that the water in Lourdes, France has high levels of what? Molecular hydrogen. Exactly what I'm breathing in. It's dissolved in the water. Okay. And I also drink the water, the device I use. Now I use a Japanese device for safety reasons. I don't use anything made in China because they're metal technology and their membrane technology. And I'm just not a fan. But I only do the best because purity is part of the spiritual journey. You want the pure blood, you want the pure consciousness, you want that purity, which is why evil wants to pollute everything. They put the craziest stuff sometimes in the food, like red number 40 or whatever, yellow number, whatever all these weird numbers are that I know are just chemicals that are terrible for us, right? And stuff that's unnecessary. And sometimes they put stuff in our food it's just not necessary. I look at ingredients all the time. I'm like, I know that doesn't need to be there, you know, but this is literally, they don't want us to awaken, Shannon. That's literally what this is all about. They don't want us to awaken because when we wake up, their reign is over, right? They control you through manipulation. They control you through fear. They need to control you even through illness. If you're weak, you're easier to control. It's not easy to control somebody who's strong and clear-minded, and you can't trick them, and you become a problem, right?
Right.
For them. And so that's something that I started as far as understanding health, and it transformed into a spiritual thing on the other side. And not to mention, I mean, you did mention a little bit, but I have had NDEs where I have gone to the other side. Part of the reason I was sick, sadly, is because I did a lot of things to myself that were terrible in my confusion, in my youth, and so much spiritual pain that I was trying to end myself. And my body just wouldn't give out no matter the terrible things I would do to it. And so I did something quite extreme. And yeah, I ended up on the other side for quite a while, hours, And when I was over there, I learned a lot of things. It changed my whole perspective on life, to be quite honest with you. My experience on the other side, which I ended up having some witnesses, one specifically, which was really important for me to have a witness, because otherwise I would have literally questioned whether any of it really happened, because it was like, it literally felt like a sci-fi movie. I couldn't believe what had happened. And what ended up ultimately coming out of that is when I was on the other side, I learned about the things you don't take with you. Like all these things that people value, like, oh, I had this awesome car and jewelry and I had a ton of money and fancy clothes or whatever. And it's like, guess what? You don't take any of that with you, right? But I did learn something, and maybe you know the answer, Shannon. I did find out something you do take with you.
Love.
Close, and it's part of it, but we basically take with us anything good or anything bad that we've ever done to another.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I went to the other side, it all came rushing in, and you could have all the visions, and the stuff was very fast, and you could feel it as a thing. So if I had ever hurt someone, I felt their pain. So whatever I did to somebody, even if I didn't mean to, I now carried this pain inside of me that I had caused on somebody else. So you bring the good and the bad, basically, that we've done. That's what I learned. And so when I ended up coming back, what I ultimately realized was I want to be really kind to people, not because I'm afraid of going to hell. I do it because I love to do it. I love to be good. I want to be good. It feels good to be good. It feels good to love people. It doesn't feel good to be cruel. I don't like to be cruel. It doesn't feel good to do something cruel to an animal or a human. It just doesn't feel good to me. And so I just learned it on a deeper level. And now that's been a huge part of my passion is I know, and I suffered from medical issues, right? That was one of my biggest, most difficult parts of my journey. But learning to overcome them, that's why I help people now. Like on my YouTube channel, I do it all for free. I share a lot of information because I know what it's like to suffer. And I want to help people try to overcome that suffering so that they can actually try to have a good life. Because you have no life if you're sick. I know that from experience. I lost everything. You know, I lost my job. I couldn't even walk. So when you lose everything, you know, it gives you obviously a very different perspective on life. But ultimately, I know how to feed the body, right? And I have blood work, and the doctors are always blown away. And I work with a bunch of doctors and scientists at this point. I know how to feed the body, but at some point, you have to ask yourself, how do you feed the soul, though? You know, and I think that, and I meditated on a lot. I meditate every night, and things come rushing to me all the time, and I found the answer to it. And people can meditate, pontificate, whatever they want, all they want on this question. But I'll just give you my simple answer. I feed my soul by loving others. When I love others and I do things out of love, it just feeds me. I feel it. I like the way that that feels. And when I do terrible things, I feel terrible. I feel this guilt. I don't feel good if I'm doing that, and I know it's contrary to what my soul is looking for. And that's the stuff we can truly take with us. That's the stuff we should invest in. And that goes for anything that you do in life. You know, Jesus said it really brilliantly, to be quite honest, but I don't know how many people understood it. He did this one teaching where he was out there teaching and he would, you know, he would rant and stuff. And there was I'm putting it in modern English, but basically at some point somebody stopped him and said, look, we're just peasants. We're just normal people. We're not even very educated, Mr. Jesus. And you're going on about all these teachings and we don't really understand. And what if you could just simplify it into one sentence? All your teachings, what if you could just put it in one sentence? What would it be, Mr. Jesus? That was kind of the question they posed to him. And he basically said, love one another as I have loved you. Now, what does that really mean in action, right? Like I told you before, if I learn something, I don't want to just learn it for the sake of learning. I want to learn how can I apply this in my life? How can I make this information change my life to the better? And ultimately, what that meant for me was love one another is, let's say I'm a farmer. Well, I want to farm with soils that aren't depleted. I don't want to use chemicals and pesticides and do all sorts of weird laboratory things to my food. I want to grow it a certain way. Why? Because I know I'm going to give it to some other person. Maybe you're my neighbor and I give you the food. I want the food to nourish you. I want it to nourish your family. I want it to bring you health and happiness, right? That's what I would want. That means I'm doing it in love. So that goes for everything. It could even be a house. If I build you a house, I want to do a nice job because out of love, it's called having pride in what you do, right? And you put this love into it because you don't want somebody's roof leaking in the middle of winter and whatever, right? And so I think that's what it means to do things in love. And when you do things in an honorable way, it really does feed your soul and it ricochets into the world. So it's like a domino effect. And hopefully you make somebody else happy or healthy, and then they can affect somebody else in a positive way. Because when you throw a lot of crap out there or negativity or the bad stuff, it's also like a domino effect. Somebody takes that out on somebody else. There's that famous adage, hurt people, or whatever, And that's ultimately what we're talking about. So that's why I see the journey of health and spirituality being very much interlinked in this world that we live in.
Thank you. That was so beautifully stated. It very, very eloquent. Uh, all of that makes so much sense because we are part of the universe. The universe includes nature, elements, etc. I'd love to hear more about water from a spiritual perspective. So, what I know about water, and I'm sure you know a lot more, so I'd love to hear. I get, I have chills about it already. Okay, first of all, we have the water experiments, the Japanese water experiments. I forget. You can say the name of them. I forget, but where if you speak to some water and you use ugly, mean, cruel words, the molecular structure actually changes. If you say, I love you, you're beautiful, it crystallizes in a way that it becomes a pure form. It almost looks like a snowflake. But if you speak to it, and this is true of, and we're all made of water, right? So it's true of plants, it's true of humans. Trauma, what trauma does to people, and why we have so much fear and violence. It's all because of that lack of love. I mean, and I'd let you can elaborate on that because that's a simplified way of saying it. But as someone myself who is in 12-step recovery and who was where you were in terms of I didn't want to live, I was self-destructive, I was acting out, I did not feel self-love, and I'm writing a book about it now. How do we find self-love? And I want to go into that stuff with you too. So I'll try to keep it simple for now. Water. Let's talk about the spiritual aspect. I also have heard it said, and I'm a psychic medium, that when you're in the shower, for example, or in a pool, you have sort of a closer connection or a, a stronger ability to communicate with the spirit world through water. So please tell me what you know about that.
Wow, you are making a lot of points that, yes, I do know a lot about
There's
this.
so many ways to go with this, but let's start with water.
The first thing is Japan is masterful, masterful when it comes to water. Now, remember, I'm known as the hydrogen man, but what you probably don't know is that the word hydrogen actually means that which becomes water. Okay.
Oh.
Hydrogen is the ultimate water. It's literally I mean, what do you think water is mostly made of? It's mostly made.
H. That's what the H in H2O is.
That's right. It's H2. It's almost 70% water. So the thing is that water is magical. And yes, we know that it has memory. We know it responds to music, to thoughts, to emotions, to pictures, to words, blah, blah, blah. It clearly is reacting. You have to understand that your body is obviously made of water and that your state of mind and your state of your heart are affecting your body of water. Okay. It's crucial. So, what affects your thoughts? What affects your emotions? And if I go back to talking about the things in the lab report about what's in our water, do you know what top three pharmaceuticals are in our water at the highest levels?
Tell me.
Antibiotics,
Hmm.
antidepressants,
I was going to say Prozac for one.
and women's contraception.
Mm.
Now, let's think about how these three things affect us biologically. Antibiotics destroy your gut flora. I'm not saying that they're not necessary when you're sick. Look, if you need them to save your life, you need them to save your life. They're one of the greatest things ever. I've used them before. They've saved my life more than once. So that's one thing. But I don't want them in my water, right? Because I I don't want to touch antibiotics at all until I need them. Because otherwise you get this resistance to it. Believe me when I tell you, you don't want any water. In fact, for people who are just curious, how do you filter your water, dude? Because go to a website called mypurewater.com And all their products all the machines they have, and it's not even expensive, cleans your water to the highest degree, meaning getting the pharmaceuticals out, the microplastics out, the parasites, the viruses, the bacteria, the PFAS, the forever chemicals, the fluorides, on and on it goes. It literally removes it, just so I show people, because I don't think people understand water filtration. But if I give you one example, have you ever heard of PFAS, like forever chemicals?
Mm-mm.
Okay, these are forever chemicals. These are all the levels and all this different crap that's in our water, right? This is after carbon distillation. Look at that. It removes everything. That's what we're looking for. We want to remove all this crap out of our water. Now, does that remove minerals too? Yes, people get weird about that, but people don't understand that there's a difference between organic and inorganic minerals. And it's super easy to mineralize your water. I could show you how to do that too. It's so easy, it's cheap. Water is so important. So back to what you were saying. The emotions and how they affect water. Well, do you think antidepressants affect you emotionally? I mean, one of the weirdest is the side effects, right? The side effects might cause you to want to take yourself out. What? I
Mm-hmm.
prevent that.
Yeah.
It's craziness, right? It's lunacy. And I know the history of those medications and what they went through to be approved. It's not good. Remember, I don't give medical advice. Talk to your doctor, but I'm just telling you, do some research, because the way that it appears to affect the gut and the brain, it ain't good. In fact, it looks like they might actually cause certain medical issues in the long term. And I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just saying, I would never use them. Let's put it that way. Did you know that a 25 to 30-minute walk daily has been shown to work better than any antidepressant known to man? Come on. At some point, do a little exercise, treat your body a little better, and that will make you feel better, right? So we talked about the antibiotics and how it affects the gut, which, by the way, almost 80% of your immune system's in your gut. It's just not a good idea. Then we get into the antidepressants and how those also affect the gut in certain ways, which actually have a domino effect on how they affect the brain. I wouldn't want to be taking those either. And then women's contraception. I mean, I know a lot of guys aren't going to be wanting to put that stuff in their body.
Yeah.
And women, you don't really you want to be in balance hormonally. So you don't want something that dysregulates you, which I'm really big on. I'm really big on overcoming dysregulation, because it just causes so many, well, I feel so different and I'm so confused. And this is part of the issue, but this is part of what they want. If you're confused, you're never going to find the truth, because I believe when it says the truth will set you free. Once we know the truth, you can't be taken advantage of. It's like these politicians who lie to us straight to our face. And I'm literally looking at them thinking, we know you're lying, dude. It was like, we know you're lying. And I can't believe how convincing you are, because I'm sitting here knowing it. And I'm still almost a little convinced. And I'm like, I can't listen to this guy. This is crazy. So these emotional states are going to affect the body and the body of water that we are. So if you're looking for truth, the last thing you want is confusion. And if you are going to, even psychically, you want your body to be in good balance, to be able to communicate, because you don't want your biology to interfere with the message that you might be receiving, which can definitely happen. You want to be a clear vessel, on every level that you possibly can, from your heart to your mind to your body. You want to be a clear vessel so you can receive the message with the most clarity that we possibly can receive, And so that, to me, is one of the reasons why water is so important, to have very clean, so that we're not affected. I've been training my body for almost 8 years now. I mean, I've been treating myself pretty good for over 10 years, but I did a very strict protocol that doesn't affect me hormonally, so that I can try to stay in the most balance that I can. Was when I meditate, that's when I realized that the hydrogen was doing something on a spiritual level that I didn't really anticipate before. And I got a funny story for you about that if you want to hear it.
Yes, please.
Because hydrogen appears to be related to this being of light. You might even call her an angel. And it's really fascinating, because I just interviewed a guy on my channel who I'll be releasing the interview soon. He's a paraplegic. And the benefits he's gotten from using this hydrogen stuff are just phenomenal. He tried cheap products so there's a lot of little cheap products like bottles and pills for hydrogen, which I would never use, both for safety reasons and just not being very effective potentially. And just like water filters, you can have a water filter that really is not cleaning your water that great, like a refrigerator filter or something. Water filtration is not really the easiest thing. Most water filters will remove just some things. Now they even have certain, I won't name the companies, but there's certain lawsuits against certain water filtration companies because their water filters were contaminating the water. They were making actually more poisonous for you, which is pretty shocking. So that's why I do carbon distillation. Oh, I forgot to mention, if people do go to that website, I forgot to give a discount code if they want discounts. People love discounts.
Yeah, please.
The code is uprising 144K. Should save you some money if you decide to get one of those.
And
So,
the website address again, which I'll have below, but just
oh yeah, it's mypurewater.com.
mypurewater.com, and we'll also have the discount code below.
Awesome.
Continue.
And same thing for the other company, the Holy Hydrogen one is about the hydrogen. So those are two different products. One is how you clean your water. One is how you put hydrogen into it. And this is what's funny. I realize that hydrogen has to do with this angelic being of light, as crazy as that sounds. And the weird part is I'm talking to the paraplegic guy and we're about finishing our interview. And I just kind of mentioned, it came up in conversation. So I just kind of threw it at him and he goes, well, that's really weird. And I said, why is that so strange? Because I thought he would think I'm a weirdo. I tend to stick more to the science of things. And he said, because she's been visiting me since I started using the machine. And I was like, what? What?
Wow.
When he would use garbage hydrogen products from China, which by the way, I don't care if they're from China or not. The problem is the technology they're using.
Mm-hmm.
So China's not using technology that I would ever want to use in my body. I think that there's dangers to it. He said he would have bad dreams when he would use these. And then when he found me, he's like, well, I'm going to use that Japanese machine because it's all about the purity. You don't want leaching metals into your water or other things leaching in because hydrogen needs to be at the purest it can be to be safe and effective. So he started using the device and he said he started having really weird, wonderful dreams. Like he was having dreams that he was walking again.
Mm.
He's in a wheelchair. He was having dreams that he was running all of a sudden. He was having all these dreams, and then all of a sudden he said he looked above and there she was, that angelic being of light. And the weird part about it is, think about this place in Lourdes, France. Do you know the history behind it, like how they discovered this water?
Mm-mm.
It was a female being of light, like an angel, that appeared to some children and told them, dig here and drink the water from this spot right here for healing or whatever. And they did, and that water's been there ever since. And it was this being of light. So she seems to be related with this light. And I met her too when I went to the other side, by the way. And I couldn't believe she was there. And she was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Not beautiful like, oh, she looks beautiful. She emanated more love than I've ever could fathom, more than any human that probably exists on planet Earth, more compassion than anybody, more patience than anybody. The motherly feeling that was coming off of her was just ridiculous. I literally ended up in her arms very quickly, and she held me for quite a while, and then eventually she took me and we went and traveled, as one might call it, the heavens. And so I spent a lot of time with her, and it was surreal, and it was the most powerful experience I've ever had. And what's ironic about it is, whenever I heard about a lot of other people's NDEs, I never heard anybody saying what I experienced. What shocked me about it, though, is because I carried this with me for a lot. What shocked me was when I was in Japan this last time, and I'm going to be going again. I saw this giant painting on the wall at this place where I was at. One day I was shopping somewhere. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe it because it was exactly what I had seen when I was on the other side. And I thought to myself, who in the world drew this? Because you don't draw this if you haven't seen it. You don't just make this one up. I'm sorry, you'd have to have been there. And so I immediately started asking around. I'm like, who in the world drew this? Like, who did this? I want to know who did this. There's no way. Whoever did it must have been to the other side at some point. And so then I finally found out, some Japanese told me, they're like, oh, that's Kukai. And I said, well, who's Kukai? Like, you don't know who Kukai is? I'm like, no, I have no idea who he is. So I started reading about Kukai. Oh my goodness, this guy's story is incredible. This guy is like a Japanese Jesus. He's the one that set the foundation for Japan being as wonderful as it is. And he is the guy. So one thing that I love about Japan is they have magical waters. I don't know if you know about this. I told you they're masterful with water. They have dug, they call them onsen. You know about onsen?
Mm-mm.
So you can type it in, ONSEN, for people who want to look at it. But it's hot springs. But they build these facilities to honor the water. they have the water. They make it travel. I actually went to the source of where it was coming at one of these places, but they route the water to these beautiful structures where you go and you bathe, hot waters, cold waters, saunas, of course, steam rooms, and for purification, for health, and for spiritual reasons. When you go into the water, and this water is deep from within the earth. It's not your normal water. And the Japanese love it. I mean, and I didn't know that Kukai was the guy who started it. In fact, the first hot spring ever created in Japan that he started is still there. It's like this holy place now. It's like sacred. It's part of their history. And so it became so fascinating. And when I saw that mural with that image and I asked, and it was like, oh, that's Kukai, it just blew my mind. And then, and this is the weirdest one too. Have you ever heard of this book? The Essene Gospel of Peace?
Now I have.
You have heard of it.
No, now I have, just in this
But I,
moment.
so I was reading through this book. And by the way, just so people understand my personality, I'm really skeptical. When somebody tells me that something is real or makes some claim, I need to, there's too many either lies out there these days, or sometimes people are maybe just wrong. So I always have to make sure and try to look at it from many perspectives. And I just do a lot of homework. Let's put it that way. So when I was on the other side, though, there's so many things that I saw that I've never read about it in any book. Never even heard of anybody talk about it. Nobody. So I felt really weird about it. I thought, why did I not see what everybody else saw? So is everybody else right and I'm wrong? Or is the opposite true? Until I read this thing. And it blew my mind because here I'm reading this book, and there's stories about Jesus and different stuff in this book. It's supposed to be like almost like from the Dead Sea Scrolls, whatever. And I'm reading this pretty skeptical. I'm a skeptic. I'm reading, I'm thinking, yeah, whatever. Like, really? Come on. Okay, I'll keep reading because it's a long reason story why I ended up reading this thing. And then I reached the last 4 pages. And Shannon, that's when my mind was officially blown. Because Jesus describes the other side with absolute perfection. When I say perfection, everything I saw and experienced, he describes it. And it was so detailed that I honestly think that if the average person were to read it, they're just not going to get it. Because I already know that if I hadn't been there, if I read it, I'd be like, what is this nonsense? Like, I don't get it. Like, I could read it to you and you'd just be like, I don't, it's just not fair. I hate to say that. It's not fair because I wish people could understand it. And I feel extremely grateful that I had this opportunity, that I was able to see and understand, what the message that was trying to be conveyed. But once I read that, I began to have a little more faith in what this book was saying. And I actually use a lot of methods from this book for my healing journey. Now, the weird part about it is when I read it, I thought, well, where is this information coming from? As a skeptic, I'm like, where did this come from? This is too incredible. So I started reading about the guy who wrote this thing. And Edmund Bordeaux Zakelli, this guy. Turns out his father was a translator, a famous translator that worked for the Vatican. And then his son followed in his footsteps and became even better than his father. Okay. And this guy is translating his books. And there's so many things within the translations that he knew would be dangerous and they shouldn't be released to man. But on his deathbed, he had all the translations and he gave them to a woman that he trusted, by the way. And he said, I want you to give this to the world, but I don't want any profit to be made from it. So everything should always be sold for $1.
$1.
Only to put the money towards making more of them. So I thought it was quite fascinating, that I would read about it in some random book,
Yeah.
So that was kind of a wild story that I was, wanting to share with you.
Thank you for that. That's really interesting. I think that's one of the things that's so fascinating about near-death experiences is that everybody has a sort of bespoke experience in terms of whatever their soul needs to see for whatever reason. However, the main themes are always the same. And that's what's, you could, for the people that are skeptics, and I too have a skeptical mind. I have gone through phases of atheism, agnosticism, and now I'm a psychic medium. So I too am, even now, there's still things in the spiritual realm that I'm like, that's a little too woo woo for me. I'm not sure if that resonates. I'm open to all of it. And also, I don't just believe it all the time. But what I think is really interesting is that why would all of our brain, well, listen, you could say it's one big hallucination that we all have because of whatever, but how is it the same and how is it also very specific to the person? Why do we see, not everyone, every NDE has the experience of, oh, I have my son on the other side, my grandma on the other side, but most people I know, it's one variation of that or another. So it's like, oh, I saw my mother there. Why would that be the thing? Why would there always be the same message? Why would there always be love is everything? And on that note, I don't want to put words to your experience. So when you crossed over and visited the quote unquote other side, which is really not another side, it's maybe another dimension, or we're shielded from, it's right here. What was the greatest theme for you? What did you glean from that experience?
The greatest theme?
Yeah, I mean, you did say one, which was that you take it all with you, whether it's the
Oh,
good things, the bad things, who you hurt, who you loved, etc. But what for you was the common thread and the main thing that you took from that whole experience? And also, I'd just love to know, you said you were there for hours, but obviously with no time on the other side. Did it feel like hours? Did it feel like an eternity? Did it feel like it was an eternity and then it felt like a second? How did that feel to you in terms of the time? And what did you really take away from it about why you were being shown what you were being shown?
well, as far as the time is concerned, I just wasn't really thinking about time, but it was a while. I knew it was a while. I didn't know the exact time, but I knew it wasn't 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot going on over there. As far as the things that I really extracted from it, I felt like one of the first things that I really learned was that I realized that God is real. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had my doubts. I wasn't 100% certain whether I was like, oh, he's totally real, he's not real. And I know that I think one of the dangers sometimes is that we have ideas of what is the real God or the real right thing to believe and all that. We have a lot of ideas. And one of the things that happened when I was over there, like literally, I was being told in some level, you need to let go of your ideas. Like you need to let go of your belief systems. You need to let go of who you even think you are. You need to let go of all this crap that you've accumulated because otherwise you're not going to be able to see the truth. You're not going to be able to see the truth in the most clearest way because our ideas distort the truth, you know? And so that was one of the really big things that I had to learn and really kind of let go of that and just see things the way that they are. And I had to learn about not being afraid because there's things that we can encounter that we could potentially be afraid, but I would have to remind myself, don't be afraid. Nothing can hurt you here. It's not like you have a body anymore that somebody can chop off your arm or something. Like, what's the greatest thing that you could be afraid of? And it reminds me of that famous adage, there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was a lot like that. You just needed to stay calm. The more that you panicked, the worse that it would get.
Yeah.
Stayed calm and centered, everything was going to be just fine. And so those are some of the things that I learned while I was over there. And I feel like I learned that God has a master plan that's so big that we can't even fathom. Like forget trying to understand it. Um, but I know that he has a big plan. And for me on a personal level, and this is going to be probably different for everybody. One thing that I learned was our spirit appears to make certain decisions before we even come here to planet Earth. So we like volunteer for like a mission. And I think it's important that each one of us on an individual level try to figure out what that is and do the soul's work or the spirit's work more than the flesh work. The flesh work, you go to work, you got a job, you pay a mortgage, whatever, in your normal life. And that's one thing. But your spirit's work about why you're here is so much more important. Not to mention, there's a lot of Buddhists writings about it, but even Jesus said it in a weird way. He said, don't invest of the things of this world. Because if you invest in some massive business and you have some crazy multi-billion dollar business, that's great and all. I'm not saying it's not great. But when you pass, you ain't taking it with you.
Yeah.
Did you do the soul's work? Unless your soul's work had something to do with this business, because maybe the business, I don't know, like this hydrogen machine, for example. The story behind the guy who built this machine from holyhydrogen.com, this Japanese gentleman, his story is so incredible, Shannon. I really believe the whole reason he created this is because his daughter was born sick. And they told him that his daughter would die by the age of 3 or 5 years old. Super sad, first child, first daughter. I've never met the man personally, but the things that I've heard about how loving and incredible this man is. He knew about the data about hydrogen because it was really new in Japan back then. And he couldn't give her any hydrogen from any device out there. So, like I showed you a few products here, but like pills or bottles or just cheap Chinese products, sometimes expensive Chinese ones. He couldn't give her that because when he tried to approach the doctor would literally, he was telling him, you can't give this stuff to your daughter. She's highly compromised. If there's any impurity, it could potentially end her life. And he's like, well, then what am I supposed to do if I want to give her hydrogen? He goes, well, you'd have to find like extremely pure hydrogen, just like water. You would need super pure water. And so when he did all the investigation trying to find the best hydrogen machine, guess what? It didn't exist. Nobody cares about hydrogen to those levels at that time. People are starting to care more now, but there's still a lot of issues in the world of hydrogen, in my opinion. So what did he do? He went and wanted to design his own for his daughter. And whose help did he get? This is where it gets crazy. I don't know how this guy did this. He got Toyota to help him. You know how much technology Toyota has in this type of realm of hydrogen? He got Yamaha to help him. He got G-Shock to help him. He got Kobe Steel to help him. We're talking about companies, titans of industry in Japan. Why would they help this guy? He wasn't even starting a business. I don't even know why, to be honest. But they helped him, and they helped him develop a masterful. It literally, his little device is a masterpiece. We are lucky that it even exists. It's literally saved my life. I had so many medical conditions, including a heart condition, that I was already supposed to be dead. And my heart condition just disappeared magically. My cardiologist confirmed it, and I've seen it for other people too. I mean, I've seen things from arthritis, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, autoimmune issues, glaucoma, macular degeneration, TBI, dementia, Alzheimer's, heart conditions, lung conditions, gut conditions, inflammatory conditions. I've seen things just disappear with this incredible. You should see the stack of medical papers they have in Japan about this little device. And they already use hydrogen in Japan in roughly 30 university hospitals. So it's a real deal, but you have to learn how to do it properly. So this guy's story, it touched me so much because I didn't know the full story at the beginning. And I found out about his daughter. And if anybody wants to read the story, they can go to holyhydrogen.com and it's on their about page. And they show pictures of the daughter. And it's a very sad story. When I first heard it, I was crying. But you know what I think that little girl did? And this is just my own guess. I think she chose to be born that way. As sad as it is, man, it really hurts when I think about that because that's a sacrifice of love for others. Her life may look like it didn't mean anything, but to me, it meant a lot. And I've never met her. And she's touched so many, this little device has touched so many people's lives. I've seen it. It's incredible. And I think she sacrificed her life in some way in her spirit so that her father would do what he did. And I find it to be remarkable and extremely special. And that's what I learned about being on the other side, that our spirit makes certain decisions. So when we're here, we're going to live out a certain life. And I think the most important thing is to try to really, truly listen to your heart, not the corrupt part, not the part that'll be like, oh, well, my heart says I should get a Ferrari, whatever. But really try to connect with your heart and let it lead your life in some way. Because I think that it will always know more than our head. It will always know more than us. And I know we got to use our head, and I get it, but that's one of the many things, that I learned when I was on the other side. Not sure if that answers your question.
It answers it perfectly, and I think that's a really beautiful place for us to end because I know we could go in so many directions, but I feel like everything that I feel like you really have been so succinctly eloquent about um, really what we're doing here, and also just the magic of natural elements and how we take for granted hydrogen. It's a gas, but why is it here? And even just our own abilities, right? Like our sixth sense, that is a natural ability. It's not something that only a few people have. We just have to be aware of that it's there and learn how to harness it properly and use our intuition. And as you said, use our heart and use our heart for love, which, as we touched on too, trauma is a difficult thing. Trauma is why there's so much evil in the world. And trauma begets trauma. But if we can harness our own love energy, our own healing energy, then we really can make a difference in these things that are happening if we don't let that fear rule us. And if we can break out of the programming of lack, of fear, of hate, of othering one another, and realize that we are all one big ball of energy placed into different forms, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's water, whether it's a tree, an animal, a human, wood. Did you want to add anything to that, just in summation?
Well, what I can say is, hydrogen is a part of everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the most abundant thing in the universe, by the way. And it's just wild. Even when I was talking about how evil is attacking the body, the antibiotics or the different things that damage our gut flora, guess where we make most of our hydrogen? In
In our
our,
gut.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they're trying to destroy the body's ability of one of the most magical foundational things that we need for life. Hydrogen is life. I could give you some very interesting examples, but life is very important. And so hydrogen is crucially important. And imagine, like right now, I'm inhaling it. It's going straight to my brain and straight to my pineal gland, by the way. Hydrogen is pure if done properly. It goes right past the blood-brain barrier, starts going after free radical damage. It's amazing, you know? And so I really hope that anybody out there that heard this, the only way this word's going to get out, because there's a lot against me. I've been dealing with this for so long, and just share it out there, with people, because there's a lot of people who don't even know about this, and they don't know, both on the spiritual front or the health front, just people who wanted to transform their health or know somebody who just doesn't have any options, because that happens a lot. People are sick, and doctors want to give you band-aids. I mean, that's what, and so that's all. But I just hope that as time goes by, people are going to realize this, the spiritual and the healing, and how they come together for ultimately creating a very beautiful life that in the end we can share with others. That's what I think the most beautiful aspect is. You build yourself up, you find that love within you, you be better, you become better, and then you can share that with the world. And ultimately I think that's part of the journey. And coming out of the darkness, right, is another huge part, because there's a reason we dove into the darkness. And finding your way out of it is only going to make you stronger. It's only going to make you understand things on a deeper level. I don't see it as a negative thing, although it can be a very difficult path. I'm sure we all know that as humans who've suffered and been through life. But just know that there is hope on the other side, but it is going to require a level of effort, because you're not going to, what's that famous adage about nothing worth achieving is easy or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Something something along those lines. Yeah. Nothing, it's nothing worth doing something easy. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, it may not come easy. It may
It,
not. It may and it may not.
most of the most difficult things are the ones that we're going to cherish the most, right? The more
Absolutely.
the difficult things to achieve. And I don't think finding ourselves or enlightenment or whatever word you want to call it, or self-improvement, it's not going to come easy, you
Right.
know. But there's such a beautiful thing waiting for us. I learned a lot. I guess I'll give you this one, my last one. One of the magical things that I found about happiness, because it's been one of the things that I've been looking for too for a very long time, since I was little. And happiness, it comes in such abundance when we have gratitude. And
Mm.
the weird thing about gratitude is, let's say you've never lost your legs. Anybody listening, whether it's your eyes, your legs, your arms, whatever you want to think of, If somebody just has had their legs all their life, it's not that they take them for granted. They can be like, yeah, I'm happy that I can walk. But do you feel a certain level of gratitude on a whole other level than the average person? Because if you lost your legs for 10 or 20 years, and I've been through this myself, when you get your legs back, you're on cloud nine. It's
Yeah.
a whole other level now.
Yeah.
And yet I always had them before that. What's the difference? That's what I was trying to understand is like, what's the difference? And what I realized was I could have only gained that level of gratitude and joy basically because I went through the darkness, because I lost something that was always mine, but I just didn't know because it was always mine. And it's almost like the spirit has never experienced death. So how can you be so grateful for life? You have to understand it. We're here. We now die. We get sick. We're going through this process. We don't need to look at it as negative. We just need to find greater gratitude when we find our way back and be appreciative of what we now have or what was always ours in some way. But that gratitude helps us grow. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. And so I practice that now all the time. I'm always trying to have, whether I have a meal, grateful for the meal. Whether I have clean water, be grateful for clean water. The fact that my body works, be grateful for that. Gratitude is such a powerful, powerful thing that gives us, enriches our lives and brings us more joy. And then I always believe that the more we have, the more we can share with others. That's why it's so important to work on yourself before you try to go around telling everybody else what to do and how they're supposed to grow. I'm a little bit against that from what I saw also on the other side. Um, I started working on me. And then once I reached a certain level, even my understanding of health, I waited until I really was in a good place and understood before I started to share. That's why I did like a lot of blood work and a lot of different testing on myself to make sure that my methods were working. And so, then we can really truly share beautiful things with the world. And I think that's really a lot of the journey is loving one another and not hurting one another. and
Yeah,
and
please, no more of that. Yeah, it's in the contrast that we learn gratitude. And if it weren't sometimes difficult and painful, then what would we be doing here? Why would we even bother leaving our spirit form and coming into these bodies if we were just here to party and float down a river and have a great time? What would we really learn? It would be just a vacation, but a vacation from what? We already have peace on the other side in spirit form. So, as painful as it is, it's also what makes life so profound. And having myself been through 12-step recovery from sex and love addiction, SIBO, gut, it took 7 years to heal my gut. I lost my voice. I'm a voice actor from acid reflux because of undiagnosed SIBO. Doctors would not acknowledge it, and they just kept giving me antacids, and they kept insisting that I take medication, which only made it worse. And having to do my own research to heal my own body because doctors wouldn't help. That now, do you know how happy I am when I can eat a blueberry? And I can now eat one blueberry. I can eat a whole pack of blueberries. I used to have one blueberry and acid would just come flying up into my face, destroy my voice. And I thought I would never get well. I really, after years and years, I'm like, this is just my life now. And the gratitude I have for what I learned about my body, how I know how I've learned how to eat better. I mean, I've always eaten well, but I just don't eat sugar. Not putting, like you said, ingredients, labels. I look even at Whole Foods, sugar, sugar, sugar. And these are the things that once we become mindful of, you said it in the beginning, our body is a temple. Or maybe you said it in someone else's interview, but I remember you saying our body is a temple. And we do have to honor that. But most importantly, it's what what our bodies allow our souls to do, which is express, share, love, connect, be in this world, speak and share. And so that's why I do this podcast. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your insight, for showing up and for sharing this information with us that I've never thought about hydrogen before. The healing properties, and hopefully it will help somebody find an answer to either their health problems or even just for us to thrive more. And how do we resist? How can we, uh, I want to say heal, not fight against, but pollution, all these things that are insidious, that
yeah,
are preventing us from thriving, both spiritually and physically. and this information is really important. So thank you for doing the work you're doing. Thank you for sharing. Again, I'm going to have your links below. But you're just such a lovely person and so articulate, and I'm so happy and grateful that you showed up today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shannon. It was actually really wonderful talking with you. And
Likewise.
I love the name of your channel, by the way.
Thank you so much. It's I named this podcast Magic is Real because as a former skeptic, when I
Yeah.
started to see that, oh my goodness, I can communicate with the other side. There is life after death. Death isn't a thing. It's an illusion. Synchronicities. Every day when I wake up, I'm like, Spirit, show me how good it can get. Show me the signs. And then you realize you're really living in this magical world, even though parts of it are really scary and hard. There's some scary stuff happening all the time. But if you focus on the magic, it really does help to make this a more enriching experience. And when you realize that you are supported so much more than you really know, even though things might seem really tough, and that we have more power than we even know. And
You
that
know,
we, yeah, go ahead.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You know, what I was going to say was I use the word a lot, like when something magical happens on a spiritual level, on a physical level, on a human level. But
Yeah.
all the time, I'm like, wait till you see the magic or the magic.
Yeah.
I use that word a lot. And so when I saw the title of your podcast, the magic
Yeah.
is
It's
real.
just like we live in a magical universe that we take for granted. And there are people that don't believe in what we're talking about, which is fine. That's their path. I
Yeah.
didn't at a certain point too. But my argument, not argument, but what I would ask people to consider is look at childbirth, how we create a whole human. Look at a flower. My mom's not religious either, but she said, if you ever doubt the existence of God, look at a flower. Just look at technology. And yes, it came from man, but how did our brains come up with a computer? How the cloud? All of these, like, look around, look at the stars, look at the universe, look at the galaxies, and tell me this is all just some random coincidence. I used to think it was. And there's an argument for that. But also, isn't that cool? Like, that you and I exist? Isn't it cool that we came up with technology to build buildings and the pyramids and Stonehenge? And it really, when you really think about it, life itself is absolutely mind boggling, but we're so accustomed to it. We take it for granted and we're like, whatever, I'm a person. And you just get into the programming of the matrix. And when you really start to explore, but wait a second, I'm made of mostly water. What do you mean? Or like what? Or the universe is always expanding? What do you mean? To where? How is it infinity? What are you talking about? And also, where did God come from? If we came from the Big Bang, where did the Big Bang come from? All of these things are worth exploring, and sure, there are quote unquote rational scientific explanations, but in my mind, science and spirituality are one and the same. That's the explanation, but how did that even happen in the first place? And it's magic. It's magic. So if you're having a hard time, just again, it's that zoom out of wait a minute perspective. Like you see that meme that's like, we are on this spinning ball through outer space. Why are we worried about petty things? Why are we worrying about the Kardashians? Why are we, no offense to the Kardashians, they're humans too, but like,
Yeah.
why are we so consumed with these things that really are materialistic and superficial and we can't take with us?
Yeah. I totally hear you. And I completely agree with you. And I think sometimes it's just lack of either observation. Sometimes we
Yeah.
don't right in front of us.
Yeah.
And I think that's basically what you're stating, that because I've seen it, that we're surrounded by magic.
Hmm.
It's all so incredible. And I think ultimately what everybody really wants in the end is people just want to be happy, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it requires wisdom to know what truly will make you happy, not what you think will make you happy, because that's a whole other thing. Oh, I think a Ferrari will make me happy. I think
Yeah.
a mansion. I think the new boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But sometimes people end up having everything they want and they still feel empty inside.
Hmm.
You see this with celebrities. And this is the reason that I said at some point you need to learn how to feed your soul.
Yeah.
At some point, that's going to become a factor. But when you don't have much money, you don't have the house, or you don't have certain things, it's very easy to just focus on those things.
Hmm.
and focus on it and say, hey, this is the source of my misery, or this sucks. And I get it. I'm not saying that it's not nice to
Yeah.
are, but it's not the most important thing, is all I'm getting at. There's more
Yeah.
part of this life than just stuff.
And I love meeting like-minded people. I think together, this is why I really love podcasting, is it's the community. And not just you and me, this connection, us sharing, us connecting, the people who are listening, the people who are watching, they're part of this. Like we're part of this energy, and collectively, I'm getting chills. Collectively, we really do have a lot of power to make this. It sounds corny, but I'm going to say it, to make this world a better place, and to. It's kind of like the state park thing. Leave it better than you found it, or cleaner than you found it. And that's kind of, if we can do that, like our souls come in here, we spend time on earth. Let's try to leave it cleaner than we left it.
That's what I love about the Japanese. Have you ever seen how they have that motto? Like they go to a baseball game, right? Americans make a mess and leave. The Japanese literally go and clean up. They go and,
Oh, yeah.
and I really respect a lot. They really hold. It's one of the few countries that I've seen they hold honor above everything. And I've seen a lot of countries these days they value money above everything, even the life potentially of the people who live in the country. But that's one thing that I really love about the Japanese. I think that there's a lot of things that we can all learn from each other, and they clearly have things that we can learn from them too. And but yeah, we can learn from everybody. And so,
Yeah. And thank you for being part of the collaboration. It's just so nice to meet you, and I'm so excited to share this conversation with everybody. So, again, thank you for lending your time, your energy, your insight, and just the work you're doing. It's so inspiring.
thank you so much, Shannon. And again, I really appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Yes, likewise, Greg the Hydrogen Man.